Okay.
Good evening and welcome. Welcome to the Oregon City Arts Commission meeting. If it's all right with the assembled group, we will call the meeting to order. I think the first thing to do is roll call, just to see who's here. Commissioner Planton. If you could just
Here.
Commissioner Andrews.
Present.
Present. Oops.
Commissioner Carlson.
Present.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Selena, I don't know your last name.
Jones, I'm present.
Commissioner, thank you. Commissioner Joe Wilson.
Present.
And again with Karen and Kate. I'm sorry, I don't know your last name, but
No problem. I'm sorry. I didn't know I had it on there like that. Burig, so Commissioner Burig's present. And I did want to say that I'm going to have to leave at 7:45 due to a previous commitment.
thank you.
Mhm.
And then Jean is missing, or Jean is traveling tonight, so. So we do have a quorum, so if we could call the meeting to order, the first thing to do, I think, is to review the agenda. But I never received an agenda, so I'm hoping that Anna can share the agenda on the screen so that we can all see it. Did anyone else receive an agenda and I just didn't get it?
It's also, the agenda is also on the city's website, right up front.
Right.
Yeah, I saw it posted there, so.
I wanted to take a minute tonight, either now or later in the meeting, just to establish a regular schedule, because a few of you got in touch with me at the end of last week, which was awesome, saying, hey, where's the agenda? And it got published this past Monday onto the city's website. If that's sufficient time for you guys, that's what I'll normally do. So then you'll just know that, hey, it's going to be available on the Monday before our Thursday meeting. If you would like it a little earlier than that, like maybe we can have it then, then we can establish, we'll get in the routine so that you won't have to wonder, hey, where, it's just going to always start coming at the same time. If people are okay with getting it on the Monday, although James and I were saying we need to also make sure we get it in the newspaper, so we may need to get it out a little earlier because it has to go into the paper.
And what if we wanted to add something to the agenda? Is it something we just add when we start the meeting? Or
You can always add something to the agenda or take something out off the agenda, but it has to be a unanimous vote.
okay, gotcha.
Thank you. So that's, while my computer is moving along slowly, I'm still, is there a chance that we could share the agenda today just on this one occasion, just because I'm not sure that everyone was familiar with the procedure?
Yep. All right, can you guys see that now?
Yes.
Thank you. So if everyone can see the agenda, it is November minutes review and approval, discussion items, Oregon City Arts Center, planning for a retreat, upcoming elections, adding financial section to bylaws, communications, and adjournment. Is there any additions to the agenda or changes?
Yes, I have an addition. If we could cover it tonight, is an update on the mural code. I know the main reason for the Art Commission being pushed so quickly was because the code wanted to include the language of the Art Commission and their responsibilities to do with mural code approvals. And I just wanted to know if, I know Matthew left for another job, and wanted to know if that has been finalized and then if it is actually part of city code right now. And also if there's an application posted. I did a lot of searching through the city website, but I could not find it. So
Thank you. So can we add that item then as number 5?
sure, update on mural code.
You have to vote. There needs to be a motion and then a second and then a vote.
Thank you. Thank you. So I move that we adopt agenda item number 5, update to the mural code.
A second.
All in favor?
Hi,
Raise your hand or whatever. Anyone opposed? Raise your hand or say no. Seeing none, the motion passes. And do we need to, does that mean that we've James, does that mean we've approved the agenda too?
That just means you added an item to the agenda.
Okay, so does anyone move to adopt the agenda for tonight's Arts Commission meeting? I guess somebody has to move to approve I move that we approve the
You can't,
agenda.
the chair can't, actually, I should have caught this earlier. The chair can't make a motion.
Oh, no, darn it. Okay. I should know that.
All right, I move to adopt the agenda. For
I
this meeting.
second.
All in favor? Thank you. So James, does that invalidate our previous motion to adopt number 5 or? we have
No,
to do that?
you can go ahead.
Okay. All right. So actually before we before we get into agenda item number 1, is there any public comment? Are there any members of the public? Have they submitted any written comments? Is there anyone here who'd like to speak? Seeing none, we'll move on to item number 1, November minutes. Has everyone had a chance to review the previous minutes, the November minutes? They were sent out by Ann on Monday. Are there any corrections or additions to the minutes?
I noted that there was 2 places where it seemed the sentences just stopped halfway through. In section 2 under Oregon freedom of speech, second paragraph, the sentence goes discussion of the mural code and also that, and then the paragraph ends. And then below the paragraph just above part 4 review of the proposed bylaws, last sentence of that paragraph is Commissioner Wilson noted that, and then it stops. So they're just wanting additional language on those 2 sentences.
Thank you. I'm kind of at a loss as to what to do with that. James, can you advise us?
Yes, you could accept a motion to accept the minutes with those proposed changes.
Okay. Does anyone have such a motion?
I motion to make those changes to the last agenda.
And do you
I
accept
second.
the remaining parts of the agenda? I mean, of the minutes.
Yes.
Do you, yeah, thanks. Does anyone second that motion?
I second.
All in favor? Raise your hand or say aye. Anyone opposed? So that motion is moved and the minutes are accepted with those additions.
So this is Karen. I just wanted to say that I was going to abstain just because I wasn't there last month.
Oh, thank you. Sorry, that
Mhm.
7 in favor and 1 abstention.
If I
agenda-
may, I'm actually glad that you did that, Commissioner. I learned that you do not have to be present at the meeting that took place in order to approve the minutes. So if you read the minutes and it makes sense to you and you don't have any questions about the minutes as presented, you can still approve them even if you weren't at the original meeting. Learned that this week.
Thank you. So moving on, if it's okay, item number 1, an Oregon City Arts Center. This came from a conversation that I had privately with Trist between the last meeting and this meeting. And Trist has a presentation. I asked her to come down and present on, she's done a lot of groundwork on this topic and has some ideas about how it would look if the Arts Commission chooses to undertake a project like this. So Trist, can you talk about what you've done?
Sure, and I'm just going to be a quick summary of what's happened so far. So there have been multiple conversations with, Liz Hannum from DOCA and with Victoria Meinig from the Chamber of Commerce and many people in the community on a possibility of an art center and how would we go about doing that. So many towns do it by us being able to lease a city-owned or a county-owned building for like $1 a year lease from the city, funding it and keeping it financially sound, and any renovations that would be up to the organization. But it's kind of a good way to start to see what buildings in a city are available, something that may be talked about being torn down or vacant. And I think a good start would be to get a list of those through the county or the city and see which ones are possible. There's been a lot of talk about the Barclay Hills School, and I have gotten to know Larry Didway through Rotary, and he and I have talked over the past year about the possibility. And so in our last conversation, he said, why don't we have a meeting after the first of the year? And we can talk about that a little bit more. That is in fact owned by the school district, but there are only a few offices there that are occupied by special needs administration. And I think trying to think of the children's acting company here, Crayon Kids, uses it's kind of a stage area, which is really an outbuilding. And I think there's a dance company. So I think it just would be, if it was something that was on our wish list to do as the commission, it might be good to start some groundwork on it. And that's about it. So if anybody's any questions for me or any comments, I'm open to that.
Questions or comments for Commissioner Trist? Commissioner Andrews, I mean.
Yes, I'd just like to add something.
Please.
So I mean, first of all, I think it's a great idea, but I think we should make sure to really have the opportunity to establish our goals and our long-term plan as an arts commission. And so we can include that in the conversation, but I really feel like we need that. The words that I was go out of my mind, but our strategic planning, our long-term goals and objectives, and then that's something that can be discussed within that. But I feel like we really need to get our footing, because it'll be a huge project, and to take on something like that in a really effective way. We need to know our direction.
Yeah, and I absolutely agree with that. I think that it was kind of a conversation, just one-on-one.
Yeah.
And Emma asked if, or Commissioner Lugo or Emma asked if I wanted to talk a little bit about at the meeting, but I think the first thing that we really need to do, exactly like you said, Tammy Jo, is strategic planning and who are we and what's our goal and what's our mission. And, you know, I think an art cultural center, although it's a great idea, is putting the wagon way before the horse.
Thank you. Commissioner Andrus?
I would agree and kind of second that comment around from Dr. Tammy Jo Wilson regarding just giving us some time to establish ourselves. I appreciate the suggestion, and I do think it would be helpful to, if we do encounter a point where we're ready to move forward with this, is getting input from the community about what it is that they would want to see in a space like that. So it's not just us saying this is what it's going to be, and really getting that that perspective and community engagement and input as to like what is it that they would envision in a space like that.
Thank you.
Can I also request, is it possible to turn off the share screen so we can see each other?
Thank you.
I had one question about this, if there is time to discuss a little more about what Trist was saying. You were saying that the city could lease the building for a dollar, a nominal fee, but then the organization, you said, would be in charge of the rest of the funding for it. What do you mean by organization? Would that be city-run organization? What does that part look like from your conversation?
And it's just experience with other cities that have done that, that a nonprofit would, you know, sponsor that as an art cultural center. And so they would in fact have to have a business plan and be able to submit that to the city. This is my business plan. This is how we're going to fund it. You know, and an extensive business plan of how to keep it going before it would be approved. And then the renovations that would be needed, if it had to be brought up to code or anything like that, again, that would have to be under the organization that was managing it, whether it was through grants or fundraisers or whatever that is.
Thank you. Is there further questions or comments for Commissioner Andrews about this?
One thing I just like to add, just dovetailing on what Selena said, I know frequently art centers like what I think she's describing will frequently be their own nonprofit. So it would be, it could be potentially start a nonprofit specifically for the purpose of this arts, of this hypothetical art center. So like when you think of Multnomah Art Center, it is its own entity as a nonprofit. It actually separated from the city, but that's, I don't want to get into that. But frequently art centers are their own business nonprofit. That is their primary mission, is to, you know, run the art center. So it could be a new organization, hypothetically.
Thank you. Are there any additional comments? Or Commissioner Andrews, do you have any response to those?
No response, except I agree with whichever everybody said.
Thank you. So at this time, since this was just an informational only presentation, it might be a good time to close the conversation. I did want to just say one last thing on this item. If you want to think of an example of what Commissioner Andrews is talking about that's here in Oregon City, the Willamette Falls Television Corporation is a good example of that. That's our local community access TV station. And they have a similar agreement with the city, which is how they use the space. That's the old church across the street from the old high school. And anyways, it's an example of how an organization such as the Arts Commission or some similar type arts organization makes agreements with the city in order to provide services. So if we could move on, the next item on the agenda is planning a retreat. So I think for that, I might ask James or Commissioner Carlson, if either of them would like to address this issue first.
All
We
right.
will start with Commissioner Carlson.
Yeah.
Go to James.
Well, I had offered our small nonprofit art center that has a community room as a good location to have a retreat and have options if they wanted to do art as well. If we could plan that in January, possibly, to have it could be an evening or a weekend retreat.
Where are you located?
We are located on Main Street, across from White Rabbit Coffee Shop. And it has to be recorded as well, and we have that capability too.
Thank you. I'm sorry, Mr. Graham, can you tell us, James, can you tell us some of what you were thinking about, some of the benefits of having a retreat and maybe how we might do it?
Yeah, the great benefit of a retreat would give you time. It's the topics that we're talking about in terms of goals and objectives and maybe even a vision for the Arts Commission. All of that takes time. And you certainly can't do it in meetings like this one. So a retreat would give you the flexibility to have discussions and on these various topics, allowing you more time. Now, the retreat should be, of course, you should have a program so that you can stay on track and I should say an agenda so you can stay on track. People, I think the commission here needs to agree beforehand what it wants to accomplish during that retreat. Now, you very well may say, well, we might want to develop a vision statement for ourselves. And then after the vision statement, we very well may want to discuss goals and objectives in terms of how we support the arts in Oregon City. So those are the types of things you probably want to discuss during the retreat. It takes time. It probably take more than one retreat. It might take 2 or 3. That's okay. But it gives you time to really flush it out the way you'd like. And of course, it would be, as Commissioner Carlson mentioned, it would be on YouTube or just as we're here, recorded.
Thank you. Let's start first with discussion. Let's hear from our fellow commissioners about this idea. Is there a discussion about this, Commissioner Wilson?
Yeah, as someone who's experienced the retreats that we're talking about, I mean, they're basically a really long meeting, usually with food. The ones that I've been to, because you just gotta hunker down and just do like this epic long meeting that requires you bring your food with you and there's the spread. That's just like a brainstorming work session that's just super intensive. One thing that I'm thinking about in my mind about doing this is if we're going to do this in person with the current COVID and all of that, and thinking about what the space is going to be like and making sure everybody is comfortable with that and what our, vaccination status. And that's something that we should have a conversation about is, if we're all going to enter each other's bubble for like 3 hours and eat food together. I think we should discuss that part.
Does James, Anna, does the city currently have a policy on use of public space and vaccination status?
Well, our policy is that you wear your mask. When you speak, you can remove your mask and then replace it. That has been the policy. Of course, when you're eating, of course, you have to remove the mask, that type of thing, but you would have the mask on most of the time. Now, if the facility is large enough where everyone is 6 feet or more apart, you may, and of course, there's some ventilation in the room. then a mask may not be necessary. But that's the policy of the.
What about requiring that people are vaccinated?
There's no requirement for that.
So would it be in conflict with city practice to require it of an arts commission meeting?
No, it wouldn't be in conflict. Your commission, and if everybody feels comfortable in disclosing their status, that's one thing. Their vaccination status, that's one thing people can do. You can also just, if you don't want to do that here, you can also just tell staff, us privately, and then we can convey it to the chair.
So does anyone have any comments on this conversation?
Perhaps, Tima, you can share a little bit more about the space that you have.
Yeah, it's a large community room, probably 25 by 25 feet square. And we have plenty of tables and chairs and ventilation. We can also open the main door, if we need more air. But it's a good size to have us, if we need to be 6 feet apart for that, so.
I would say at this point, most venues that are allowing people to be in close proximity, they either have to show proof of a negative test or a vaccination. So that's what I would ask of all of us, that we're able to either show a negative test or proof of vaccination.
You don't have to do that here, of course. That's a matter of privacy, but you can certainly do that offline if you prefer to do that. Now, you can also put that to a vote in terms of the desire of the commission to have people, to make sure that people are vaccinated prior to the retreat. You can also put that to a vote. So,
does anyone feel the need to vote on that? Please make a motion if you do.
I motion that we do a vote to request that people are vaccinated if they're going to attend the retreat in person before the retreat.
I second.
It's been said, the motion's been seconded, made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all in favor, raise your hand or say yes. And are there any opposed? Raise your hand or say no.
okay.
I don't see any. All right. Well, then the motion passes.
Okay.
I just want to double check. Commissioner Planton, did you have something you wanted to add before the vote?
No, that was a vote. That was a vote too.
Oh, I saw
Okay.
your hand. Okay, that's, I was just,
Yeah,
there was
it
a
was a
vote.
vote.
Okay, okay, got it.
So now that we've got that out of the way, we're still in the middle of discussion. Is there more discussion around the topic of the retreat, or could we move on to?
Well, if we want to pick a particular date, if we want to do it in January or February, an
Right.
evening or a day event.
Mhm.
I also wonder, is 3 hours enough time?
3 hours, well, you don't have to do it all in one day. And you can do it on, I mean, it's a big topic. So you can really go on and on if you'd like. But
I would request that we not go much longer than 3 hours. That is a lot of time that's a lot of time to sit in a meeting.
I'm fine with 3 hours.
I guess I would suggest that we plan for more than one day.
Does a 6 to 9 work for people?
So, okay, so I just heard two things. One is plan for more than one day, and then the other one is the 6 to 9 PM work for people.
It
So
depends
let's
on the
take
day
those.
of the week. 6 to 9 work some days and not other days. So we would need to designate a day of the week before we could choose a time.
And just clarifying, this is 6 PM to 9 PM? Or are we
Yes.
talking, we're meeting for coffee?
Evening.
Yes, evening, yeah.
And would anybody be open to a weekend where we have a morning meeting? Or would people prefer? I would prefer a morning during a weekend rather than a night 6 to 9 that after, because you're worn out by the end of the day anyway, it would be hard.
We could do a Sunday morning. That would be fine.
Mm.
No.
A Sunday afternoon would be, people be open to that.
No, Sundays is a no-go. It's a no work
Okay.
day for me.
Right.
You'll never get me to vote for a Sunday meeting.
Okay. Saturday, would people be open to a Saturday day meeting?
Mhm,
I would do a Saturday or like a Thursday night or a Friday night.
mhm.
Those work for me as well.
So I'm hearing at least two yeses to either Saturday or Thursday night or Friday night.
That works for me.
It would work for me as well. I mean, of course, depending on the date.
Right.
I could probably make those work.
Okay, so how do we choose between the three that we just heard? Thursday night, Friday night, or Saturday day?
So someone can make a motion for the first date. It could be a Thursday, it could be a Friday or Saturday, but someone can make a motion for a specific day of the week. Now, I'm looking at the 2022 calendar. And it looks like January the third Thursday is when we normally meet as a commission. Happens to be the 20th. That's the 20th. And then if you'd like to meet on the next Thursday as a retreat, that's the 27th.
Yeah, how about, okay, what about Thursday, January 27th?
I'll be out of town.
Okay,
What about the week prior? The Thursday prior, the 13th.
That would be January 13th if you decided to meet on that Thursday.
I guess I had a question. Is there a reason why we need to have the meeting that same month as we do the retreat? Can we do a retreat instead of our regular meeting? I guess is my question.
yes, the answer is yes. We have agreed as an arts commission. The only thing that we've agreed to with meetings is we've agreed to meet quarterly. So we could do that in lieu of an arts commission meeting, yes.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yeah.
We can,
We lost Emma.
No, I'm here. I'm here.
Okay.
Tammy, you're on mute.
thank you. I think I was on mute and then I muted myself. Thank you. I would like to make a suggestion that we could do 2 meetings in a row. So we could do one on the Thursday of the 13th in the evening, and then do a follow-up meeting the following week. Maybe
On
make them
20th.
2 hours or 2.5, 3, I don't know. But if we have these kind of evening chunks back to back where we could continue the conversation, that could be helpful.
I support that idea. I do have a question though. I will be out of town at least one of those days. Is it possible to participate in the retreat via Zoom?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm in the same boat. I will be out of town on the 20th.
So
So do you have technical equipment available that you can do a hybrid, that you can do both Zoom. I know it takes a lot because I go to a couple of meetings that are hybrid, and it takes a lot of tech equipment to make that come together.
Yeah, we have the camera and tripods to have
Okay.
it from a distance, so. Mhm.
Great. So it sounds like there might be support for having 2 meetings in January, one on the 13th and one on the 20th, and one of those meetings being a retreat.
Yes, I would just like to say I'm madly searching for one more class schedule just to make sure it's not on Thursday. So I'll just need another minute, but I'm hoping that works just fine.
Commissioner Wilson?
Yeah, I was actually thinking that both of those would be retreat meetings and not one retreat meeting and one regular meeting, because we don't need to meet every month. So we could have two retreat meetings in a row to knock that out, as opposed to trying to go back to our regular business. But just have 2 retreats and try and really get that stuff figured out. And then, you know, after that, go back to our regular scheduled program.
Commissioner Burek? Karen?
Yeah, so I support that. I support what Tammy was saying. That's I really think that we can be more effective, because I think when with the proposal originally was maybe a slightly shorter, maybe like 2.5 hours, 2 days in a row. And I do think in the evening, 3 hours does sound really long.
Yeah.
And I do think being able to have things close together, like 2 in a row, one right after the other, would be helpful. So that's what I'm really supportive of.
Well, we could do Thursday 13th and Friday the 14th evening.
Well, I think if there's some type of if there's something for staff to do, staff would need time between meetings. If there's something, just in case. You also have the 13th, as you mentioned, but you also have the 22nd, which is a Saturday. Is that a difficult time for people?
So I guess I just wanted to clarify, I was fine with 2 Thursdays in a row,
Okay.
just so
Yeah,
folks
me
know.
too.
Um, So I'm okay with that. And in some ways, it's easier for me to commit to a Thursday than maybe a Saturday, because Saturdays do get filled up. But that's, I think.
I second that.
I agree. I would rather give up a Thursday night than a big chunk of a Saturday week, two weekends.
So can I make a motion that we have 2 meetings in January on January 13th and the 20th from 7 to 9 for our retreat?
Or 6 to 9?
I thought we were going to do 2 hours each.
Oh, okay, sorry.
I second.
7 to 9.
So, thank you. So all in favor?
Okay. Looks like it's unanimous.
Yep, so the motion passes. Great. James and I do have one procedural question. When the commission started, we were sort of told that we were this will be the next topic, but we were told that we were gonna have elections in January. Do we need to do elections in January, or should we just wait till our next regular public meeting to do elections, even if it's in February?
You have the you should do your elections in January.
Okay.
But you can do it. You can do it as part of as a component of the retreat.
Okay.
And I just have a comment to do with the meetings in January. I think it would be really helpful and be more effective if somehow we could put together an agenda for those 2 nights so that everybody has some time to think about it. And so when you go to a 2-hour meeting, people are prepared with their thoughts on those items. The only thing I'm not sure of is how we would go about doing that, since we're limited to only being able to talk to one person at a time. How would we be, if people were open to that, to having an agenda they could prepare for, how could we put that together?
You could have a subcommittee of like 2 people, or we could do it right here at this meeting, or we could have another meeting.
Well, I'm wondering too, if people could each have like 5 topics that they're wanting to discuss. I don't know. And we have a large white bulletin board at our location, so it'd be perfect to just brainstorm there too.
I think having an agenda going in makes it so we can all be more prepared going into for the discussion, versus spending time working on an agenda at the meeting. But I'm happy to do whatever the group wants to do.
Thank you. Commissioner Andrus?
Earlier, James had outlined some suggestions, and I wonder if we could revisit those suggestions and use that as kind of a format for a focus of what we could potentially start with.
Thank you, James. Could you do that?
Sure. You can have a session for developing a vision for the Arts Commission. And then, of course, a session that speaks to goals and objectives in regard to how you'd like to support the arts in Oregon City.
Great, that sounds good. So the first retreat would be vision, and the second retreat would be goals and objectives. Is that enough of an agenda for people?
I'd like to add one more thing to that, but really it's in relation to those 2 ideas. But if you look at different commissions in different cities, there are active commissions that are actively pursuing and bringing art and culture into their committee. There's commissions that oversee art coming in, and so they're not. I think you know what I mean, that they're not pursuing art coming in, they're managing it and they're overseeing it. So I think it would be a good topic to start with is, what do we see ourselves as?
Well, let me add something here. You have to be careful regarding the law.
Okay.
And in Oregon, it's a very different kind of situation than anybody else in the country, because the Arts Commission cannot dictate art. You cannot dictate what it looks like or says, because of the freedom of speech part of the Constitution in Oregon State's Constitution. You can't dictate what it says specifically. You can dictate how it's structured, the structure of a sign, if it's a mural, but you can't dictate what it says.
Thank you. Commissioner Wilson has had their hand up for a while.
I think what she was getting at, and maybe this is something we just say for the retreat, but I know one thing that is trying to stay present in my mind is that we are, an advisory group. And so it's thinking about the difference between doing projects or doing advising, and are we, boots on the ground, or are we creating an facilitating for others to then, are we facilitating and providing the support so that this hypothetical art center could then be its own nonprofit, as opposed to, say, us running an art center, which are 2 different things. And so I think that's part of what our conversation needs to be, as far as setting our vision, and then where we go from there. But then just remembering we are an advisory body.
Thank you. Commissioner Planton has their hand up.
Yeah, if there's more comments on this topic specifically, I'm happy to yield, but I just was thinking about for the retreat, another item on the agenda would be good is just a brainstorm of ideas on other projects and proposals we heard tonight about the Cultural Arts Center, but there might be other ideas, and I think it would be good once we kind of get the structure of our vision and our idea about how we want to function and operate as a commission, to then also just give ourselves enough content out there to consider and think about and see how these different options fit into that overall strategic plan. So maybe as part of the second meeting, we just do kind of a brainstorming together and come up, everyone bring in ideas that they have or see or want to share with the group. So
Thank you. Yeah, that sounds good. So would that fit under goals and objectives? And Commissioner Andrews, would your request fit under vision?
His suggestion would fit under strategies.
So the second meeting.
yeah.
Yeah.
You might have three. Keep in mind that vision takes a long time. I mean, it's not going to be, because sometimes organizations spend a long time on a sentence when it comes to vision. So you have to keep that in mind, because vision is not it's not a 1, 2, 3 step, unless you all agree that someone has come up with a great vision and you all adopt it.
Thank you, Commissioner Wilson.
I would just like to add that too, once we get into this retreat, that the second meeting will be very much dictated by what we did and did not accomplish in the first one. So it's easy to set the goals for the beginning. But I think we have to just kind of see what happens and then reassess an agenda for the second meeting.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good. Does that sound good to everyone? So our first meeting will be vision and yes, and Griffith, sorry.
I wanted to just clarify one more thing. In that first meeting, are we open to actually creating a mission statement under developing a vision, which that can take hours. And it is really helpful to kind of solidify, who we are, but do we want to actually put that on the agenda that, yes, we're going to pursue putting a mission statement together?
Oh, thank you, Commissioner Andrews. Ann Griffin also had their hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, not at all. I just wanted to share that you may want to consider bringing in a facilitator if you are going to do a vision statement, because I know that as some of you have, I can tell from this conversation, some of you have done that before, and it can be a lengthy process. I'm also willing to volunteer to help with facilitation if that's appropriate. But just to think about having a facilitator to help is a potential.
Yeah, how does the Arts Commission feel about having a facilitator, and how do they feel about writing a mission statement as part of the visioning process? Commissioner Wilson?
I think it's a great idea, especially because I think having a facilitator, they could really keep an eye on making sure that all of our voices were heard, and they can make sure that everybody gets a chance to put in their input. Because I know I can get emotional and get into it, and I want to make sure that we all leave room for each of us to have our contributions. Especially we have a member that's not even here, and so they'll be coming into it not a little behind, and so I think a facilitator could help make sure everybody gets really good input.
Thank you. Are there other comments on either of those points, having a facilitator or writing a mission statement as part of the visioning process? So if somebody would like a facilitator, I think it'd probably be a good idea to make a motion to do that. And
I'll make a motion to have a facilitator at our retreats, 2-day retreat.
I second.
all in favor? Great. Anyone opposed or abstain? I'm seeing none. Should we vote on who that person is to, or could we just ask Ann to do it? Tammy, Commissioner Wilson.
Oh, I was just I had a question I wanted to clarify for myself and the group. We've been using the word vision statement, but then the word mission statement also came in. And I want to make sure that our language is clear about what we are creating. Are we talking about a vision and a mission as two different things? Because I was thinking of the vision statement as kind of the same thing as a mission statement. So I just want to make sure that the language and the objective is clear.
A vision statement is an aspirational statement. A mission statement is more specific to why you exist and what you seek to do generally. So it's a thin line, but they are quite a little different. And I think what might be helpful is we can send you definitions of a vision statement in writing, definitions of goals and objectives in writing, as well as what a mission statement is in writing, so that you go into the retreat armed with the appropriate definitions of these different terms.
Thank you. Is there further conversation on that topic?
Well, question. So if you're saying a mission statement is what we do, isn't that already dictated in the bylaws? I mean,
Yes, you could. Well, I think it's in the bylaws. I'm not sure. Let me check a look. It might be in the bylaws. However, the bylaws are changeable. You can change the bylaws from one day to the next.
understood. Yeah.
So we'll take a look at the bylaw. I think it's important that you take a look at the bylaws to determine whether or not that's sufficient.
Commissioner Wilson?
Yeah, because the bylaws for our mission would have been written, back in, what was it? 08, 09, and before that, in the previous iteration of the Arts Commission. And I would imagine we might have evolved or have different thoughts, ideas, whatever. So reading it and making sure that that is, what we're thinking, where we at now would be a good idea. But it is good to know there is a mission statement out there, a place to start from, and to understand the difference between those three things. Sounds really good.
Great. It sounds like we have some agreement then that we'll get from staff, vision statement, mission statement, goals and objectives, examples of those that we can bring to our first meeting. Will that be enough of an agenda for people to work with? It sounds like some pretty solid ideas about what we're going to do. Great. So if it's all right, maybe we can close discussion on this and move on to our next agenda item. Is there any further discussion on this topic?
Do we need to identify a facilitator, or has Anne
Right, we haven't done that yet.
the facilitator?
Would somebody like to make a motion to pick?
Well, before you go ahead, and I appreciate that, I do have experience. I'm happy to do that. Why don't James and I put our thinking caps on too, and we can offer out to you guys some options. And if it's me, that's fabulous. But we can see if that makes sense.
Is that something that we can vote on over email? Or can the chair just choose it?
The chair can choose it. The chair can choose it. The group can choose it. It's just we're talking about January 13th, so there's not a lot of time.
Right. If the group chooses the facilitator, do we have to have another meeting to choose a facilitator?
I hope not.
Well,
you could come with a recommendation at the first meeting, and then the group could approve it then.
Or is
at
it
the first
okay?
retreat meeting? Or yeah,
Well, we
decide on
need
that.
the facilitator at the retreat meeting, so we would need to know and identify and have them there.
Would this body just entrust myself and our vice chair Tima to just help pick whoever Ann and James suggest to us?
Yes.
Okay. All right, great, we'll do it that way then. So if it's okay, we'll move on to the next agenda item, which is I think it's the upcoming elections. Oh yeah, so January, we need to vote on a chair and a vice chair. So I guess we'll need a quorum. We should probably do it at one of those two meetings. And so is there any discussion? Do people want to talk about it? Is there anyone who wants to run for those positions?
I want to just say that I think you're doing a wonderful job, Emma. So if you're interested in continuing, I would definitely support that.
I'm interested, but I also asked Commissioner Andrews if they would consider, because of their extensive experience running an arts organization and their extensive knowledge of the arts community in Oregon City.
You're on mute.
I really did appreciate that, Emma, and I'm seriously considering it. I just want to put it out there that I've had some personal losses in my life very recently, and as much as I would like to do it, and I do, I just want to reach out to whoever would be the co-chair to really partner with them and know that I had somebody to help me along the way. So yes, I'm really interested in it. I'm open to it, but I wanted to put it out there that I really would need some support. And I think this whole group is very supportive. So I would consider it.
And also not to, discourage anyone else who would like to be the chair or the vice chair. I think that all of you are qualified as Arts Commission members.
I agree.
And Vice Chair Carlson has done a great job also. Set up for the meetings and stuff. So is there any further discussion about that? Okay. Well, anyways, everybody knows that we're going to vote for somebody in January, and you can nominate yourself or someone else can nominate you when the time comes for an election.
So elections are going to be on the agenda as well for the retreat, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
What is the length of the term?
It's in the bylaws, it's 1 year.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion on that topic? Great, it looks like we might get done early. The next item was financial. Commissioner Carlson, was that your item?
Yes, it was. I submitted several line items to Ms. Griffin.
Those were additions that you wanted to add to the bylaws?
Correct. I think there were 4 line items.
Let me pull those up, Tima.
Commissioner Carlson, if you have them, maybe could you share them? Oh.
Yeah, I can read them. The first one is line item 1, at no time shall members of the Arts Commission deal directly with money. Line item 2 is all purchases and requests should be submitted to city directly for payment/reimbursement. Line item 3 is purchasing form should be submitted within 2 weeks of an event program completion with the final report to the city of Oregon City. Line item 4 is committees must be must keep event program expenses at or under budget. A committee must get approval from the executive committee before spending additional funds over their budget allocation. Committees that overspend without approval may not be reimbursed. Committees may be required to give a report at any general meeting and must submit a final report regarding their program event to the board within 2 weeks of their work completion, so the report may be presented at the following general meeting. Committee reports should include details such as projected budget, actual expenses, incomes, contacts, planning notes, volunteer details, committee members, etc. And line item 5 is an annual audit of the books will be performed by the city. Upon completion, an audit report shall be submitted to the Arts Commission and presented at the following scheduled general meeting.
Thank you.
They're just from PTA type standing rules. So the language is primarily from something like that.
Thank you. James, how should we proceed on this? There's 5 items that are bylaw additions. And then at least one of the items has 4 subsections. So
Well, to answer your question, in terms of audits, you can't commission an audit. The city government does an audit for everything. Anyway, you can't have your own audit because you're actually a subdivision of the city. That's the one thing. The other thing is probably in terms of committees, you probably want to, as it relates to committees, you probably want to wait to include that kind of language until you've had your you finish with your retreat, because there may be strategies that you might come up with that might establish you may establish committees, or you may not have committees. We don't know that. It all depends on how the retreat pans out. So I would suggest that you probably, I think the first one was all very good. You should not be handling money. And I think the finance director had mentioned that in his presentation through the other day or the other meeting. But I would suggest we probably keep those in mind, but not adopt them until after your retreat.
So James,
Andrews
are you suggesting that we make a motion to do that, or should we?
Well, it doesn't have to be a motion. You could be a general consensus. It could be a general consensus that we just hold that until after your retreat, so that you have a good idea in terms of where you're going.
So it could be tabled to the next.
Yeah.
Commissioner Carlson, how would you feel about that?
That's fine.
Okay.
I think Commissioner Andrews.
I would just like to suggest that rather than making them part of the bylaws, that they are a separate financial, what would you call it, a financial addendum or a financial plan for the commission. Because I may be wrong, because I'm only thinking of the guild, and it may be easier as the art commission, but I know for our organization, it's very difficult to change the bylaws. It has to go through voting, and we're in the middle of some of that exact language that you have is trying to take that out of our bylaws because it became too restrictive for the type of organization that we evolved into it, and we change after 10 years. So that's my only strong recommendation, is not to include them as the bylaws, but have it as a separate document that goes with the commission that refers to the financial rules and regulations.
So not to be disrespectful, but this sounds very much like a conversation we just had last month.
Right, we
James,
did, and I don't know what the decision was.
James, can you tell us about bylaws and how bylaws work with the Arts Commission?
Sure. In the bylaws, in terms of this commission, you can change them very readily. It's very easy because you're really a subset. Once again, you're an advisory committee to the commissioners. I mean, to the city commissioners. So your bylaws can be changed very easily from one day to the next if you prefer to do that.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion on this item, or can we move on to the last agenda item?
I have one question. Is it possible to get a copy of the proposed statement from Commissioner Carson? So we can
Yes,
review
I
that
can
offline.
save it to the Arts Commission SharePoint.
Thanks.
And that would be an appropriate use of our email list, wouldn't it, James?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So if you could send that to the email list, I think that's the best way to get it to everyone. So moving on, our last agenda item, Mr. Andrews. The addendum to the mural code.
I'm looking at the mural code now. The Arts Commission is in the mural code. It describes the process. I mean, it describes how the Arts Commission is involved in the process of approving murals. So it spells that out. Now, of course, what's not in the mural, what's not in the code would be the program guidelines and administrative type things. That's not in the code. Now, in terms of where that is right now, they are in draft form as it stands right now. We will do our best to try to get them out soon, but as you know, we're down one staff person and we've got a lot of stuff coming at us. So it's just one of those kind of things.
Right. Right. It was one of the reasons I asked. I know you guys are really short-staffed. And I just wanted to see where we were at and, you know, if there was anything that we could do to help that along. I know that one of the last changes was to replace the language of the planning department and then the economic development department to change that language to the art commission. And then the art commission formed, and I didn't know if the code was actually ever finalized with the new language and where that was at. And then also applications for murals and the responsibilities of the art commission with those, I mean, hasn't been documented yet because I know there are people that are ready, including myself, to start application process for murals and where we're at right now to be able to do that. I know we were really, really close and then there were lots of changes.
Yeah. Yeah, but I want to ask, do people, do everyone have a copy of the mural code?
The last copy I had was that the economic development department was who was overseeing it. And then it was, and then the art commission formed because that was, all the city commissioners came back saying, well, why don't we just have an art commission rather than having it in under the economic development team. And I just don't know if the code was ever actually finalized because at that point there were a lot of staff changes.
Well, what we can do is we'll make sure that we get a copy to you, everybody.
Okay.
And also a finalized, I mean, not a finalized, but a draft of your bylaws. Let me ask you, does everybody have a draft of the bylaws? Because we did make some changes at one of the previous meetings and they were approved. So do everybody have those?
Is it available online?
I believe so. If not, we'll make sure it is. But we can also send it to you. We can put it in. I think I thought we had put it in the Arts Commission's website. But if not, we can do that, but also make sure you get a copy.
Yeah. And even reference, I mean, I took a long time trying to search through the city code on the city's website for the finalized code for the murals, including the language of the Art Commission, but I wasn't able to find it. And then I spent a long time trying to find an application to start a mural process, and I wasn't able to find that either. And maybe, maybe I just wasn't looking in the correct place.
No, I know that the application is not there because it's in the draft form to begin with. All the guidelines are in draft forms until I've had a chance to sort of review them for consistency with the code. But certainly the bylaws should be there, as well as the mural code should be there.
Okay.
We'll make sure that they're there, and we'll send you a copy anyway. It doesn't, I mean, we'll do both.
Okay, great.
Thank you. Is there any more conversation on this item? And seeing none, the last item on our agenda was, I don't have it right in front of me, but it was something like conversation. Communication. Which I guess that's a chance for us to kind of talk to each other about what's going on, or just have conversation. So does anyone want to have discussion about communications in any way? Would you like to share anything that you or your arts organization has upcoming that you'd like your fellow arts commissioners to know about?
So I had a question about that. So I do have a thing, but I feel like I can't invite you guys because then we would all be in the same place together. So I feel it's almost like I have to say, don't come, because then there'll be too many of us.
You could like come in costume, could have masks.
That is a problem in such a small town.
You can be in the same place, you just can't discuss business.
Oh, there we go. Okay, great.
But it's so hard not to.
That's funny.
Anyway, joking aside, the brand new Mary Elizabeth Gallery that is located inside the Stephen Crawford Heritage House in Oregon City has a reception this Saturday from 3 to 6, and we would love for you to stop by. It's featuring the artists we've had for our artist residency program for the last 2 years. So it's a really fabulous selection of contemporary art, everything from painting to sound installation, to drawings, to acoustic video. It's pretty broad, and you can get back in the Stephen Crawford House and start to experience the new direction that's happening there.
I'd like to add to that, this is a closing reception. So this is your last opportunity to see this exhibit too. And some of the artists will be there and they're wonderful.
James, would it be appropriate to post this to the Arts Commission listserv, or?
Yes, it would be appropriate.
Okay, thank you.
As an advertising piece.
Mm-hmm.
And also be appropriate to put it, I guess you could put it on your Facebook accounts.
Okay. Does anyone have further communication?
Well, Soul Flags is going to be having 2 winter break art camps for youth ages 5 to 14, Monday through Thursday from 1 to 4. And session 1, the first week, is sold out. And we have, I think, 6 more spots for week 2.
I can announce that the Art for Social Change group at Lewis and Clark, in conjunction with the art therapy program, is hosting a winter solstice event where if you have something, a statement or something you want to let go of or burn, we're asking people to submit a statement via a Google form, and then it will be live streamed anonymously read aloud and burned in a ceremony on the 21st. So I could share that link if people wanted to submit something.
I would like to know that. Three Rivers Artists Guild is going to have its first in-person meeting in probably almost 2 years. It is in January. It's going to be January 10th, the second Monday at the Pioneer Community Center from 7 to 8:30. And if you go on our website, all the details are on there for the meeting. And it's a general meeting, which is always open to the public. There's going to be some brainstorming and also asking the artists to come in on what they've worked on over COVID to kind of do a show and tell. So my president's term ends at the end of this month, but the new president will be there and our new board. So it'll be a fun meeting.
Madam Chair,
Mhm.
in regard to that first event, if you could send me some information on it, and we'll put it on the tourism website, because that's really where it should go, on the tourism website. And if anyone else has a special event, it can't be a meeting, but it's sort of like a special event where the public would be buying something or engaged in something, you can certainly submit that, and that could also go on the tourism website calendar. We have an activity calendar there.
How much in advance do we have to submit?
We need at least a week.
Thank you. Is there any further communication? So I would just like, under the umbrella of communication, I just wanted to communicate that when I read that story this last month about the Cayuse 5 statue and the miscommunication around that, and how that has possibly thrown a kink into the Willamette Falls side walkway development. It really shows to me personally the importance of having the Arts Commission as an advisory group. Once the Arts Commission is really rooted in the community. One of the things that I saw come out of that conversation about that was that it would behoove the Arts Commission to reach out to the tribes, since they're going to be a big part of the development of the Willamette Falls area. And, either maybe reach out and see if there would be someone who would be interested in serving on this commission, or at least establishing a good relationship with the tribes, since we're going to be much more in communication now than perhaps in the past. So that snafus like that can be avoided in the future, hopefully. And that was just my personal comment, which I think I can express during communication session.
I have one more question. That statue that was hit in a crash a couple weeks ago. What is the plan for replacing or updating the city too, probably on Facebook or something, so people are aware?
I am very glad you mentioned that. I was planning on bringing that up to the group, but it slipped my mind and you brought it right back to the forefront. So thank you so much. It's appropriate for the commission here to recommend what it'd like to see, what it would like to see done in terms of, do you recommend to the commissioners, city commissioners, that it be replaced if it can be replaced? Depending on how damaged it is, could it be not replaced? Could it be renovated or repaired, I should say? If that can happen, or if it's too far gone, then the commission here, the Arts Commission, can put out with the approval of the City Commission, can put out an RFP to solicit art,
Mhm.
either at that place or somewhere else. Now, keep in mind, I don't know, I don't remember how long that piece has been on that corner. It apparently has been there for quite some time.
It was there, well, they moved it. It used to be further, used to be someplace else, just a few blocks away. And then a few years ago, they moved it down there
Oh.
across from the McLaughlin house, maybe 4 years ago.
So it got hit in that new spot. So I guess the question is, one, should something be replaced? Should the art that's been damaged, if it can be repaired, should one be repaired and put back to that same spot? And if it can't be repaired, can it be replaced with something new? And do you want it in that same place or somewhere else?
So James, who would we talk to within the city to find out, like, even where the statue is, if they saved it?
Public Works picked up all the pieces.
Okay,
And so what we could
So
do is we can talk to Public Works to find out the condition of the art and report back to the group here.
okay, let's do that.
And we would need information on the artist as well.
Yes. Information on the artist. Would anyone here have information on the artist? Okay.
Thank you. Is there any more communication?
I have a question. Emma, you had said that there was something related to the Willamette Falls. I may have missed that. Was there an article or something posted?
There was an article posted, yes. It was about, would that be appropriate, James? Can I send that to the arts listserv? It was a press article.
Yes. Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay. Okay, yeah, I'll send it to the listservs so you can read it.
Thank you.
Is there any more communication? So would someone like to make a motion to close the meeting?
I motion to close the meeting.
I second the motion.
Thank you. All in favor? Raise your hand or say aye.
Aye. Aye, aye.
Thank you. Anyone opposed? Then the meeting is closed and we'll see everyone on January 13th at 7 p.m.
Thank you.
Okay.